barefaced lies. I'll say barefaced lies. I'll say barefaced lies. I'll say barefaced lies.
That's right, yeah, we got an agenda, and it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. Think you wouldn't wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah. Think you think we ever wanna defend, yeah. 'Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shooting cold, overgrown, postal road, barefaced lies.
Barefaced lies. Barefaced lies.
Hey Sean, you got a party? You got that little party going on there. Keep to the left, you can't think right, so everything you do goes wrong, yeah. Incompetence just leads to disaster. Corruption brings it on even faster. What you say?
That's right, yeah, we got an agenda, and it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. Think you wouldn't wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah. Think you think we ever wanna defend, yeah. 'Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shit cold, overgrown, postal road, barefaced. That's right, yeah, we got an agenda, and it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. Think you wouldn't wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah. Think you think we ever wanna defend, yeah. 'Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shit cold, overgrown, postal road, barefaced lies.
Barefaced lies. Barefaced lies.
Comrades, you always told us you'd build us all a new Jerusalem, yeah. You talk the talk, but when you walk, you only leave a crooked line there. And you don't see the trouble that's brewing, if all you do is just what you're doing.
That's right, yeah, we got an agenda, and it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. Think you wouldn't wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah. Think you think we ever wanna defend, yeah. 'Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shit cold, overgrown, postal road, barefaced lies.
Is this where you wanna be? Debt and childhood poverty. Oh, somebody set us free from this corrupt kleptocracy. Oh yeah. Barefaced lies.
That's right, yeah, we got an agenda, and it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. Think you wouldn't wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah. Think you think we ever wanna defend, yeah. 'Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shit cold, overgrown, postal road, barefaced. That's right, yeah, we got an agenda, and it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. Think you wouldn't wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah. Think you think we ever wanna defend, yeah. 'Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shit cold, overgrown, postal road, barefaced. That's right, yeah, we got an agenda, and it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. Think you wouldn't wonder where it's all gonna end,
Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them. On the 20th of November 2003, James Ignatius O'Rourke McMahon was elected councillor for the Failsworth East Ward of Oldham. Deeply ambitious, he ruthlessly rose to power, and by 2011 he was already leader of the council. In 2015, exploiting a Labour Party loophole, he became MP for Oldham West and Royton. If only the people of the town knew then what they now know. Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them.
Very, very good evening. Thursday, the 24th of July 2025. My name is Raj Amir. This is a Recce St. 9 transmission, 5th night in a row. So we're powering through this. So my apologies, first and foremost. I've turned on the member-only chat. So I know many of you aren't members on this. You'll have to join for £1 or whatever is the lowest price, I think. It isn't of my doing, really. There was some abuse yesterday by a couple of the jihadi guys, and I'm increasingly aware that we have survivors who tune in and listen here to these broadcasts, these transmissions. And I don't know what else I can do. I can either turn all the chat off or go completely behind a paywall, which I'm refusing to do. So anyone and everyone is, of course, able to view this content, and that's completely free. But to take part in the chat, I've turned the member-only chat on, and maybe that will change over the next when we come back. I don't know. I could see from the comments yesterday some of you were very uncomfortable, and then I went away and looked at it, and it was clear to me I've got survivors on here and their family members, and I owe it to them to make this as safe a place as possible. So this isn't in any way me trying to squeeze some pounds off you at all. The YouTube money, as you all know, I throw back in every couple of months for a meal or for an event or something, and there's an event on Monday, and that's cost £2,000. So we've saved up the YouTube income that comes from YouTube, and I've put it towards that, and there's been events on in the past as well. So that's why. So my apologies for those of you who can't comment. Pay the £1 if you want. Know that I'll get 60p back, and I'll throw it back into an event that happens once every quarter. But it is not of my doing. I'm sure you understand. I didn't share it in a live broadcast, but I went through it in a recorded video, and I put it out. And what had happened was Oldham Council had overpaid its councillors for 3 years in a row, or some of its councillors for 3 years in a row, and had been caught out. And it's made the news. And the reason why I'm sharing this, and I get all of you a national audience, is because I want you to get a feel of our council leader, the woman called Aroud Sha, and how she reacts and how she responds. So, I mean, it's a joke, really. The Manchester Evening News, you can't read anything on it. I don't know why I looked at it on the Manchester Evening News, but it's because of this gentleman. I wanted to show his picture. Oldham locals were not happy. And what had happened was, the council tried to say, it's only a couple of £1,000, and the response was, it doesn't matter if it's only £2,000, they need to pay it back. So councillors have been overpaid for 3 years, and it came out, as things do in Oldham, because it's always an administrative error. It's never anyone's fault. And the payroll mistakes, Oldham councillors overpaid for the last 3 years. Some of the 60 councillors have been receiving more than their annual allowance each year, a detail only noticed after a recent audit review. Now, the issue with that, of course, is that they don't know how much it is. Whilst the exact figure of how much was overpaid is yet to be determined, council sources have claimed it is a relatively small amount. Some have guessed it totals no more than £2,000 across the 3 years. I don't think that's the point, do you? But the council has been slammed for its ineptitude by some sitting councillors, with one calling the situation a clear cock-up. I didn't realise the term cock-up had to be asterisk out. So that's what's happened there. Of course, that councillor who described it as a clear cock-up is Councillor Lewis Quigg. And it was Councillor Lewis Quigg who exposed this by publishing the details on his Facebook page. If he hadn't exposed it, none of it would have come out. So that took place. And instead of apologising and accepting what went wrong, the leader of the council, being the leader of the council, the way she is, a woman called Aroud Sha, took to social media to attack people. I just wanted to comment on the story doing the rounds about elected members' allowances. Frankly, I don't appreciate the way council staff have been publicly vilified by elected members on this, given they don't get a right of reply. No one has vilified council staff. People have asked, particularly Lewis, why it is that this was allowed to happen. And also, as Sal Amdani, the Lib Dem, did, if it's happened here with councillors' wages, where else has it happened? And if it's an audit that identified it, why didn't the audit identify it last year or the year before? Secondly, members don't need to get themselves all worked up and cry conspiracy or cover up about an issue they only know about because we told them as soon as we found out about it. I don't think Aroud Sha understands. The term cover up was that you kept it secret from us, the council taxpayers. Telling the other councillors in a secret meeting doesn't count. You should have issued a press release. And those of you who are new to me, you should go and read one of the old Welcome to Oldham series, part 3 I think it was. And what you'll find in Welcome to Oldham part 3 is some fraudulent behaviour by Aroud Sha in a ice cream lounge she owned and then claimed she didn't own, and then backdated her resignation and Company's House. It's all very dodgy, it's all very sleazy, and that's before we talk about something called the Glodick Baths, the old swimming baths in Glodick. And they shut it down, the council shut it down, and they did it on purpose in many ways, because the swimming baths were in an area just off the Glodick area of Oldham, which is like the Pakistani area of Oldham, but people from across the town would go and use it. I remember going to one of my goddaughter's birthday parties in the swimming pool when she was like 2 years old or 3 years old or something. And they shut the swimming baths down intentionally because it wasn't an exclusive Pakistani service, perhaps, is my viewpoint on it. And then they sold it at a knockdown price, including Aroud Sha, who was involved, sold it at a knockdown price to associates of her who were very influential in the upcoming local election. And the sale was completed during a period called Purdah, which is when Aroud Sha was up for re-election. During Purdah, councils are not allowed to sell off assets or anything that can be deemed to be interfering with elections. Of course, it was a bribe. Selling a community asset to a Muslim group, and now they use it for their own Muslim whatever they do. And it's outrageous. It's completely outrageous. So that is some of the background to Aroud Sha when she talks about cock-ups and conspiracies, because this town is full of cock-ups and cover-ups. And as we know, Gary, the blowing up of her car is anything but a conspiracy. She left her car unlocked. These lads turned up, lit it up, opened the door, lit it up, and then realised that they'd not smashed the window. So whilst the door was open, because the door had been left intentionally unlocked, they smashed the window, and Aroud Sha cried far-right conspiracy and got sympathy from everyone, and it was used to attempt to frame me. That's neither a cock-up. Well, the cock-up was at their end because the CCTV footage captured all of it. It's interesting that the two members shouting the loudest about this weren't present in the meeting where this was discussed. Sometimes it's like dealing with children who refuse to acknowledge what's actually happened. Well, what's actually happened, Aroud Sha? What has actually happened, is that your council for the last 3 years has been overpaying its councillors. You don't know by what amount, and there are no guarantees that these overpayments have not been made elsewhere as well. And what's actually happened as well is that your payroll services have been deemed weak or inadequate, I think, for 8 of the last 10 years or something. So that's what's actually happened. And councillors raising alarm bells with the public who elected them is actually how a council is supposed to operate. She got flowers from Boris Johnson. That's how ridiculous it was. And at the time, those Tories, the Conservatives here, any Conservatives here? At the time it happened, we were in the lead up to removing her from her role, her position as a councillor, as well as having me falsely arrested and then getting in touch with people saying I was being prosecuted for malicious communication and being a racist. Falsely arrested as a consequence of her actions with the partnership of Greater Manchester Police and the Oldham Times, of course. When we removed her, campaigned and removed her with a man called Robert Barnes, the Conservative in Chadderton South, her boss, Jim McMahon, Debbie Abrahams, accused us all of being racists, and the Conservatives investigated local Conservatives as racists simply because the Labour Party accused them of being racist. Council officers came and briefed group leaders during an audit. They'd found an administrative error in payroll regarding members' allowances. The members' allowances report was then pulled from the agenda for the council meeting a couple of days later because it would have been incorrect. As has become the pattern from opposition councillors, cries of conspiracy and cover-up are vastly overstated. Well, the cry of a cover-up is specific to the cover-up of the grooming and gang rape of children that Aroud Sha knew about and voted down and voted down and voted down again for the government to get involved, because they either put the Labour Party first or they put some of the Pakistani uncles and fathers and cousins and brothers first. I'll let you decide which one it was, as to prevent a national inquiry. As has become the pattern from opposition councillors, cries of conspiracy and cover-up are vastly overstated. Following on from the group leaders' meeting, an email was sent to them to pass on to their groups, something which they themselves requested I should add. Again, you missed the point, Aroud Sha. You should have announced it to the public, to the council taxpayers, to the people of this town. That's what you should have done. It is not my fault if they aren't passing on key information or briefings as promised to their groups. No, Aroud Sha, you're the leader of the council. I mean, I'd rather you weren't. I'd rather a Pakistani mobster, mol, gangster endorsed, kidnapping, torturer, heroin dealer, money launderer, cop killer's getaway driver, associated politician wasn't in charge of my town. I'd rather that was the case. But after we got rid of you in Chadderton South, you went back to your Pakistani stronghold of St. Mary's and got your gangster mates to drive around and help get you elected. And I'll leave it to people here to decide what sort of means they use to get her elected. The leader of the council should be informing the people of the town. And if she can't see that, she's the one who needs to look in the mirror, not the rest of us. A very, very good evening to so many of you. We're one person short in particular this evening. They share a Facebook page, Vic and Sue Lund, Victor and Sue. They post here, they've been supporting me for a long time. Victor, we sadly lost on Monday. He passed away on Monday. So my condolences to Sue and her family. In the main, we are an elderly group of campaigners, people who support me. The majority of them are pensioners, and every time I lose one, it hurts. So, my condolences to you, Sue. She only mentioned it in passing, Gary. On a comment, I only picked it up. They were never really they're not flamboyant, they're not attention seeking sort of people. So okay, let's move on with this evening's broadcast and more wider affairs. If you are new to me, my name is Raja Mia. I've been at this now for approaching 7 years. Every night I go to bed, I worry that the police will once again hammer down my door. My daughter's in the bedroom right now, fast asleep would be a push. I think she knows what I'm doing, so she'll know she'll push it. But it's taking its toll. The anxiety of the police knocking on my door, particularly when I've got a child in the house, is taking its toll. So let's see where we end up with that. I'll keep going, and I'll keep going, and I'll keep going, and I'm waiting for her to get a little bit older, and then she'll understand a little bit more, and then we'll be more prepared. So we've got she's not finished yet, mate. She's got tomorrow's her last day. Before the 6 weeks holidays. So if you find value in the work I do, and the 6 weeks holidays are coming and I won't be posting as much, please don't let this stall. I won't be doing any live videos anyway. There'll be one more tomorrow, maybe one after the meal on the Tuesday or the Wednesday. I've not yet got that far, but there won't be anything this Sunday. I'm in a caravan somewhere. So please, if you are new to me, sign up to Redwall and Aroud. It costs you absolutely nothing. Our target is to get to 10,000 subscribers, because that's sort of like a tipping point where I know I can reach a wider audience and communicate some of these ideas far more effectively, and people who listen to me will speak to people who listen to them, and so on. And it makes a difference on a national platform. We know we're blacklisted by the mainstream media. There's no point shouting and screaming about it. Our job is to still find the most effective ways through which we can communicate. And that's using ourselves. So please sign up to Redwall and Aroud. And I am 100% community funded. The people who can't stand me mock me and attack me for it, but I am 100% funded by you. And some months I earn nothing, some months I earn enough. And it's entirely down to you, and it's down to people who subscribe and choose to pay if they can afford to pay. There's no paywalls whatsoever to access any of my work. All of my content is free. And I'll leave it to people to decide, can you afford 75 pence a week? And even if you can't do that, can you every now and then afford to buy me a coffee? And that's how I exist. That's how I've got this far. So please, 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 if you can, support me. And thanks for this. I have no idea. I'm not really an expert on Islam. I'm a Muslim. I go to the mosque. I do all of those things, but I'm just not an expert on Islam. And it's really not a platform where I attack Islam in that way. Yeah, I mean, I have no issue if people want to do that. By the way, I don't support the blasphemy laws at all, and I always reflect on this myself and think, okay, you know, what sort of person is so weak in their faith that they can't accept others criticizing it or saying it exists or doesn't exist? It doesn't bother me at all. Right. Hopefully we'll get a few more subs today. Let's carry on. This is the survivor, Jamie Lee Jones, whose testimony I shared with you from the Sun newspaper. Was it 2 days ago? I think you remember. She's been reaching out to me and chatting to me every now and then, and I leave it to survivors to share as much as they want, as and when they want. But she's now gone to Facebook herself and issued a statement. And now she's issued her statement, I think it's fair that and it's right and proper, that I fulfill my responsibilities and amplify her voice. Remember, this is a survivor who, from the age of 12, the police arrested her. Her testimony was harrowing. I found it harrowing. Sorry, I'm not going to be able to read it out again. And it was in the Sun newspaper, Now, I'll read it, and then I'll share what I know. Jamie Lee Jones. My reply to Aroud Sha and Oldham Council: where have you given survivors a voice in any shaping of the supposedly independent inquiry into Oldham? You are the one giving us updates via an email that addresses us as stakeholders. You refused the inquiry again and again, and now taking over the inquiry survivors have had to fight for. The same inquiry you turned down again and again. The inquiry you was completely against. The first time and only time I met Tom Crowther, guess who was there? Oldham Council's solicitor, taking notes. I have been silent too long. One survivor has made it impossible in Oldham for us to have a survivors-led inquiry like Telford did. She has ruined everything from the get-go. Why? She has single-handedly took each and every one of our voices. There is one survivor in Oldham that is not mentally capable, so why are the rest of us suffering? My mental health is perfectly fine. I have complex PTSD and I don't suffer any other mental illness. I am fully aware of my own thoughts and feelings. I am also fully capable of speaking for myself. Oldham Council never ever approached me before they spoke to Louise Casey and passed information over on behalf of survivors in Oldham. I struggle to trust any support offered by Oldham Council and would prefer to speak for myself going forward. Do not try to speak for me and take my voice. I see Gary's responded to her. P.S. No, I am not going to mention the survivor in question and who she is. I just had to get this off my chest. There are many, many survivors in Oldham, not just her and not just me. They all deserve a voice, and it's my mission to be able to give them their voice, the voice that has been taken away from them from the get-go. No one knows better than a survivor themselves. Never feel what happened to you is any less important than what happened to others. I'll explain what's going on in a moment. I just need to thank those of you who've just super chatted me. Thank you so much. Colin, thank you. Massive. I'm sure you've already... Darcy, you don't need to pay anything. You can comment, can't you? Because you're commenting. I don't think you need to pay every time you comment. That's not how it works. So perhaps Ian, perhaps someone can explain to Darcy what to do if you don't mind, please. Wow, Ian, thank you. I'm seeing you on Monday night, hopefully, Ian, and I'll make sure that money goes into the kitty behind the bar. Thank you so much, Ian. I'm grateful. Someone help Darcy out, please. What's been going on is, as soon as we secured the national inquiry, the council made the moves to make sure those that it didn't want anywhere near, such as myself, were completely sidelined. And they manipulated a group of survivors, groomed them, I'd say, and manipulated them again. And some of these people are very damaged. One, and again, there's many of you are new and probably haven't heard this, one of them was involved with meeting with some of the Pakistani gangsters, and they'd got together some other girls, and her job, I presume she was paid for it, her job was to coach these girls to fabricate a story of how I'd groomed and gang raped them. That's how desperate these Pakistani gangsters got, and they recruited a survivor to do that. And I think it's the same survivor that Jamie Lee's making reference to. I know one of the survivors, it's not a survivor, it's a survivor's mother, who is heavily involved with the Conservatives and goes to the meetings and stuff. I know full well she's in communication with Irish Immy. And I know that the duty of this inquiry is to treat each person as an individual and not collectively group them, because everyone's experiences actually is not the same. And I think what's clearly been happening more and more and more is those independently minded like Jamie Lee find themselves isolated because they won't play the game. And the council only want to sit around and support those who they can manipulate. Now, the other thing with this this Oldham inquiry is that it should be suspended immediately. The terms of reference for the national inquiry have not been set. The judge has not been appointed. None of the things that need to happen have happened. Yet Oldham has decided that they're going ahead with an inquiry with the borough solicitor sat in the room. The councillor sat in the room. No statutory powers delivered by the council. With a judge who clearly is having rings run round him. I know what Jess Phillips will try and do because I've seen information that I know is 100% accurate. Jess Phillips is trying to rig the inquiry in Oldham by saying it doesn't matter when the national inquiry comes, the information that we gather in Oldham through this duplicitous, sinister, compromised method will be accepted as fact and fed into the inquiry. So the evidence that's going up the chain from the local town has no statutory powers, is done by the very people who are investigating themselves. So it is a complete mess. Of course, I can contribute and help fix this, but I've not been inclined really to get involved in anything in Oldham after we got this over the line because of the way in which I and some of my friends had been treated. Councillors have harassed my friends openly and the police have encouraged them. And you know, the police have come knocking on my door already last week. And for me to re-enter this fray, I need people on side who will accept actually Raja's right here. They want to continue to cover up. And we must fight to make sure that the systems and processes, all the boring things that I do, are fit for purpose. And no disservice to Jamie Lee or any of the others. You're survivors of the rape gangs. Your expertise is in your experiences. My expertise is in the field I was trained in. And that's why they don't want me here. And I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. Because in the past, I'd work through Lewis or another political party, Lewis, the Conservatives. Really, I should be working through reform, shouldn't I? Really, I should be working through reform. But that's a fight I don't want to have. And you can see what's going to happen in Oldham. Having read Jamie Lee's testimony, I think you can see what is going to happen in Oldham. If Aroud Sha, Alexander Bogatov, Shelley Kipling, the chief executive, who herself was neck deep in the cover-up of the rape gangs. So I'll dwell on it. I'll dwell on it over the summer or so. The next election is 4 years away. Right, let's move on. Again, local to national. A delegation arrived in Oldham from Pakistan. A Pakistani government delegation of some form, you can see that. And they've got our Mayor Eddie Moores. Now, why are we hosting a delegation from Pakistan in our council chamber with the names of our townsmen, and women behind that we've honoured, and they're sat at the top table? Why are we doing this? And I'll add to my why are we doing this, because this is what Rupert Lowe's team have come out with today. Restore Britain. Asylum claims by nationality. The highest number of asylum claims are coming from Pakistan. So if Pakistani nationals are fleeing their country because they are being persecuted, why on earth are we hosting the very people who run that country? If we are having meetings with these people, surely the purpose of those meetings would be to say, well, how are you discriminating all of these people who are fleeing to the United Kingdom from Pakistan as asylum seekers, seeking sanctuary? No. He's given them awards and medals, and of course that's Eddie Moores. For those of you who don't know Eddie Moores repeatedly voted to block a national inquiry into the rape gang, a public inquiry into the rape gangs holding the government. Repeatedly voted to block it. Eddie Moores, of course, was the governor, I think, at Radcliffe School. Might have been North Chad, but whichever one of those schools Eddie Moores was the governor of, there are survivors of the rape gangs. Eddie Moores was also the councillor in charge of children's services. And here he is, thumbs up, hanging out with a Pakistani delegation. Like, really, people? Really? Radcliffe School. Thank you. It's one of them, isn't it, on Broadway? It's wrong. It's completely, completely wrong. And consider other countries. Afghanistan, Iran. Iran I get. I've seen what they do to those, to girls who refuse to wear the headscarves. Every now and then someone will send me a video of a brave girl who's done some sort of, last will and testimony, really, knowing what's going to happen to her because she refuses to live in a tyranny. Takes off her headscarf and goes outside and never to be seen again. India. The Prime Minister signed a trade agreement with India today, didn't he? Why have we got 5,345 asylum seeking claims from India? Brilliant, you're here. I did chase him into the Civic. He tried to claim, Mr. Magoo here, he tried to claim I was harassing him. So I said, I'm not harassing you, I'm asking you questions. He didn't want to answer the questions, so I kept asking him the questions while he started running. These people make me sick. And of course, on the end is Councillor Mushtaq, Councillor Shahid Mushtaq, with a red tie. A member of the public shared with me how Councillor Shahid Mushtaq would send her messages wanting to discuss her issues over a coffee and a chat. He was coming on to her. No. And his brother's Tahir Mushtaq, if you remember. I reported Tahir Mushtaq to Greater Manchester Police because Tahir Mushtaq, at the time my mother was terminally ill. He was sharing photographs of her and describing her as a prostitute. Greater Manchester Police refused to arrest Tahir Mushtaq because he was the brother of Shahid Mushtaq. So these people are vermin. I have no time for them, and no council in this country should be hosting a delegation from Pakistan. And if your council is hosting a delegation from Pakistan, you need to get in touch with your councillor and ask them if they will be raising why so many Pakistanis are fleeing Pakistan and coming to the United Kingdom and seeking asylum. I'm sorry, Darcy, I'm just reading what you said. I don't check any of the messages. I get a whilst there. But I'm glad you got it sorted. Right, I'm going to play this video. I'm going to go put some headphones on. I'm going to play this video, and we'll carry on. You all with me? Yeah, let us have a look at the numbers. No, we got very good numbers today. Just under 1,000. It was a quieter day yesterday, but we've got very good numbers today. Just under 938. Please, if you are new to me, or subscribe, Red Wall and the Rabble, buy me a coffee perhaps. We've got no subscribers this evening so far. So please, if you are able to, please do subscribe, or please consider buying me a coffee. Remember, no paywalls to access any of my work. And yes, Jenny is indeed right. Please hit the like. Please hit the like.
Well, Nana, there is now a significant police presence at the Bell Hotel in Epping. Just look to behind me now, more police gathering here. We've seen some police officers with cameras preparing to capture what may occur later, with many protesters set to come down here. We've seen some people arrive with signs. There have now been multiple protests at this location over several weeks, and there has been also a change in the police strategy on how to handle them. Yesterday at a press conference, Ben Julian Harrington, the Chief Constable of Essex Police, would not say if he regretted the force's decision to escort and monitor so-called counter-protesters who described themselves as anti-fascist being brought to this site, which generated a lot of hostility and sparked some violent confrontations on Sunday. They were then bussed out of the location by Essex Police. But it does seem that even though he didn't want to say that he regretted it, some changes have been made. There's a dispersal order in place, allowing the police to have greater powers to remove people if they arrive and they seem suspicious, or if they're acting in a manner which would threaten public order. So some changes there. We've also seen some reporting today about the supposed far-right elements to this protest. Some reporting suggesting that Homeland Party organisers have been central to this protest. Well, I have to say, being here for this afternoon, I haven't met any fascists, neo-Nazis or racists. I've met several concerned parents. They are the genesis of this protest. And earlier today I spoke to Lindsay Thompson, a concerned parent who expressed why she kept coming back to these protests.
We'll keep coming as long as that hotel is here, but I'm really worried about Sunday. We don't want any trouble. We've never wanted any trouble. And I really hope, I've seen so many social media posts calling for Antifa to come, to beat us, I've seen more posts calling for action to this than local groups saying come and protest at the Bell. And I'm really, my daughter said I'll come with you on Sunday, and I said I don't think it's safe enough. I don't know that us ordinary people are safe in that arena. I really hope they don't come.
Well, in the last few moments, Essex Police has released some body cam footage of an arrest they made recently of one of those protesters. It shows an officer telling the man to put his hands up before being handcuffed. The man was led away to a police station to be interviewed, and so detectives could search his home. That he was wearing clothes he was wearing on July 17, the day of the incident. We've also heard from Essex Police saying that their officers investigated investigating the actions of a small number of people who look to exploit the peaceful protests. They've now made 16 arrests. They're hoping for more calm this evening as protesters are set to descend again on this migrant hotel.
Okay, so that's Charlie Peters in Epping. Here, Charlie's getting around, isn't he? He's doing very, very well. I think I have time for Charlie, and clearly it's they're trying to frame it as a far right protest, and it's not working because people like Charlie. There are of course elements there. There are always elements there who try and hijack both the left and the right. We know there are always that. And the local resident who's concerned about Sunday, last I heard Sunday, is that when Tommy Robinson has said he and his group entourage, I don't think he belongs to a group per se, does he, visiting Epping. Now, I think if people have got any sense, it should be, the hotel should have been shut by now, so let's see. The council have apparently had a meeting and are looking to shut it down. I mean, it's not the council's fault, is it? The deputy leader was on a not so long ago. If it was out of their hands, it's the government. The government were moving these people around as and where they saw fit, and clearly into areas that were unsuitable. And then when alleged criminality takes place, and someone has been arrested and charged, aren't they? And they want to hide all of that. What triggered all of this? And you know and I know it's going on across the entire country. It's going on across the entire country. So hopefully this hotel gets closed and Sunday doesn't need to happen. Oh, perfect. He's not going to Epping the Para. Well done to him then. And I agree. I think that's where I am. It's absolutely disgraceful the way Epping people are being treated. I think it's absolutely disgraceful. And of course the context to all of this is the Chief Constable has been caught out. His police force did march Antifa down. Nigel Farage, to his credit, has come out and demanded his resignation. I believe that the marching of Antifa to that space is what instigated, was the spark of the rioting, the disturbances that followed. I genuinely believe that was the police's strategy all along. And I genuinely believe, having listened to the Chief Constable speak, that clearly this wasn't just from him and there were orders from above. And I look at that and I scratch my head and I think, okay, do we now need to go back and look at actually what happened in Southport? And did the police and the politicians also play a part there? Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. Now, there's a police and crime commissioner in Epping, and I made Nigel Farage aware of this whilst they were going on about the resignation of this guy. The Chief Constable is refusing. You don't need him to resign. There's a police and crime commissioner. He's a Conservative police and crime commissioner, and he has the power to sack the Chief Constable. It's as simple as that. And he should sack the Chief Constable. Because that man needs sacking, doesn't he, for what he's done. But the Conservative Police and Crime Commissioner, who has the power, I find this interesting when it comes to the Conservatives, when they've actually got the power to do something. They don't seem willing to do it, but now they're not in government, but they've still got the Police and Crime Commissioner's role there. When they're not in government, they're shouting and screaming. But where they've actually got the power, as is the case now, the Police and Crime Commissioner doesn't seem willing to act. Sack him. He should be sacked. If it was me, I wouldn't stop at having him sacked. He should be prosecuted for inciting a riot. And I agree with you. I think the state is pushing for riots, for civil unrest, so it can come down heavy on all of us and put as many of us in prison as it can. And scare the rest of you into knowing what would happen if you should say anything in the future. I don't think that's the end. I don't think that's the end. I have no idea where your samosas are. He is one of ours. Don't worry about him. Okay, next one.
We announced this today. We announced the broad framework. A lot of support's coming in, and I'm doing a lot of meetings and events all around the country over the next week or so, and then through August and September a lot more.
Just on paper, it sounds like you've launched a party, but you don't have a name. You don't know when the inaugural conference is going to be. There was some confusion over who would co-lead the party. You had Zara Sultana announce that she would with you, and then 2 days later she wouldn't. It looks a bit messy, doesn't it?
It's not messy at all. It's a totally coherent approach. It's democratic, it's grassroots, and it's open. And Zara and I have sent out this statement today, which has had a massive pickup already. The Independent Alliance of MPs have sent out a broadly similar, identical statement in support of it as well. And we will then develop from there. But the broad political principles are there, and that's the important thing, important message to get across. Listen, people have had enough out there. They're fed up with seeing cuts to their services, threats to personal independence payments, continuing child poverty, waspy women shortchanged by the government, and the only thing they can find money for is more weapons of war. The problem is that ahead of the last general election, Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves boxed themselves in by saying they would never change any level of taxation, particularly for the richest in our society. They now have a financial problem. Not very surprising.
So, Jeremy Corbyn and Zara Sultana have got a new political party. In just over 5 hours, more than 80,000 people have signed up. He believes in democracy and the establishment are running scared. We're offering people something very precious, hope. Sign up at yourparty.uk. Zia Youssef has got himself involved in having a dig at Jeremy Corbyn. It's time who's released a statement, Your Party, but apparently that's just a working title, and the people will decide what the party is called. And I'll be honest with you, I don't agree with Zia. Why is he getting involved? He should focus on reform. Why is he getting involved? And I'll tell you why in a minute. And then Zara Sultana is responding. Unlike reform, we're doing things differently with democracy and inclusivity at the core. From the launch to the party conference structures and yes, even the name, we're building it together. It might feel unfamiliar to you. It's called democracy. And I'll tell you what my issue is here. When your enemies are fighting it out amongst themselves, you don't need to get involved. You shouldn't get involved. Because all that's going to happen with Jeremy Corbyn's party is that the genuine far left anti-Semites that seem to be drawn to the Labour movement will go off with whatever this is called. You can have a working title if you want, the Islamic Communist Party, if you want to call it that, Gary, you can do. Yeah? But we shouldn't be getting involved, because the Muslim bloc vote will also be split. And the only party that this lot will harm will be the Labour Party. And where they win seats, they'll be taking seats off Labour as well. Do you want to win a general election, or do you want everyone to think you're the cleverest person in the room and have an opinion on everything? You don't need an opinion on everything. And to quantify that, here is Matt Goodwin with some polling from More in Common. The rise of a Corbyn Islamist party, I like how he's called it an Islamist party. The rise of a Corbyn Islamist party is great news for reform. The Corbyn-led party looks like it's going to take 10%. Who do you think they're going to take that 10% from? Yes? So please, be very supportive of Jeremy Corbyn and Zara Sultana's new party. I am. Because I know it's of value to all of us in the places where we're fighting the Labour Party. Last week, if you're finding value, before I carry on, if you're finding value, please like, please share, please consider supporting me with a coffee perhaps, or better still, sign up to Red Wall and the Rabble and help get our numbers up. We're 7 years in now. Come on, people. What's stopping you? You're here. You're watching it. There's over 1,100 of you. There are no paywalls. All of the content is shared for free. Sign up. HB sauce. It's exactly that, Ian. I am surprised that so many have been watching every night. I am surprised. I'm also tired, but I'm doing this to try and get to, you know, I've got something tomorrow afternoon, by the way. I've got something tomorrow, I think about 1 o'clock is the plan, of reform matters in Oldham and stuff around winning elections. So I wanted to leave on a positive for people. And for those of you who aren't into reform or talking about other parties, there is no other parties in Oldham. The only way we in Oldham can get rid of the Labour administration is potentially through reform. There just isn't any other place. The Conservatives are in a mess. The Lib Dems are, well, one of the former councillors is a convicted child sex offender, and the leader of the Lib Dems in Oldham was a close friend of Cyril Smith's. And then you've got the Pakistani sectarians who are on the rise, and we can only fight with what we can fight with. So I'm going to do that tomorrow, but I want to just focus a little bit on this apology that's come from the BBC. It essentially did a hit piece on Rupert Lowe and his rape gang inquiry and inferred that he was under investigation for dodgy dealings with the money raised for the rape gang inquiry. It was all nonsense. Complete lie, complete fabrication. Hit job from the complaint to his name being cleared, and the way the BBC jumped on it almost immediately to amplify it before the parliamentary committee could shut it down, because actually he'd done nothing wrong. Everything was above him and declared in the right way at the right time. But they wanted to undermine what we were doing. I think his lawyers have been in touch, which is now why the BBC are now back peddling at an alarming rate. On the 11th of July, the Parliamentary Commissioner for Standards published on their website that they were investigating an allegation that Mr. Rupert Lowe had breached the Code of Conduct for members by failing to register donations in time. The BBC approached Mr. Lowe for comment and published an article reporting the investigation before receiving his reply, which was judged appropriate since the fact of an investigation was in the public domain. Although the story was accurate and BBC guidance allows some latitude on the time offered for right of reply in certain circumstances around contemporaneous reporting, the article also included additional details about the donations being related to a crowdfunder in support of a national inquiry into gang-based sexual exploitation across the UK, known as the Rape Gang Inquiry. These were details about the investigations which had not been released by Parliament's Standards Commissioner. So the BBC have been caught getting themselves involved in a hit piece that hasn't worked, and now they're having to acknowledge what took place. The article was updated within the hour to include a response from the Rape Gang Inquiry, but we accept we should have given Rupert Lowe more time to respond. The story was subsequently updated to report that Mr. Lowe had been cleared and shared prominently on BBC platforms. Separately, the story was featured on BBC Look East. Why was it featured on BBC Look East? What's it got to do with BBC Look East? What is BBC Look East? Anyone know? Let me just check. Oh, it's for the east of England. Okay. Separately, the story was featured on BBC Look East, and the programme have said, "We are sorry that Look East didn't update our 1830 Friday programme to reflect that Mr. Lowe had been cleared by Parliament's Standards Commissioner. We're sorry we didn't update, so we know we're sorry we didn't say that actually he'd done nothing wrong. We were unaware at the time of broadcast that the complaint had not been upheld. We changed our reporting as soon as we alerted and updated the story in our Friday late bulletin to make clear that Mr. Lowe had been cleared after a brief investigation." So this isn't really an apology. It's an explanation. I think Rupert Lowe is experiencing how unfair this space is for anyone who speaks out against injustice, and how the machinery of the state will be weaponized to attack you and keep attacking you. I'm not picking a side between Reform or Rupert Lowe. I think and his team, I think there's good people across the board. And I hope a day comes when these people are able to sit round a table, address their differences, privately acknowledge with each other what they each perhaps could and should have done better, and come together for the greater good of this nation. I don't think we'll get another chance at this. And indeed, Jules, I genuinely do believe Rupert Lowe is a decent man. That's me done for the evening. Please do consider supporting me. redwallandrabble.co.uk. That's where we are. I'll hang around for a few minutes whilst people can ask me some questions if they want. People get in touch with me after and say, "Raj, I wanted to ask you a question." Well, here I am. Ask me a question whilst I thank people for the super thanks. So if you've got any questions, please bring them up, type them up, and I'll do my best to answer them. I'm so sorry Darcy was buying super chats, weren't she, just to comment. Yours is in gold on mine, Ian. Must be because you're feeling flush. My curtain rail behind me. I think I finally got the lighting right. What do you think, Gary? You know, I think I might need a few more sparkly fairy lights or something. That's me being silly. My daughter went to bed chuckling at me. That's a curtain rail behind me with a wardrobe behind it. I could have made a small fortune if, yeah, I could have, yeah. Well, a national inquiry usually takes 3 years. You've got to work out what the purpose of Rupert Law's inquiry is and what you want it to report and how it will report. Now, the evidence sharing phase is still ongoing, and there will be some public hearings, and I think the next phase is the public hearings, which will start, I think, September half term, October half term, I think is when it will start. The next phase, which will be calling people to give evidence. The way I see Rupert Law's inquiry now is it's got to, pressure and lobby and embarrass and humiliate and nudge the actual national inquiry. That's what I think, and you do, don't you, Darcy? Thank you. So thank you. I like, I'm all right with my curtain. It's the first time I'm happy with it. I really like my old bookcase, and it's took me a few months, but it's the first time I'm happy with it. Thank you, Darcy. I'm hearing Callum, he's resigned. Earlier on today, he released some video on TikTok. I think it was what sort of friend of mine sent me a link, said it's a 20-minute monologue. But around 12 minutes in, he confirms he's resigned. He's too busy. He's too busy making money, doing what he's doing in his business. I've not seen you, have I, Gary? I've been busy. I've been working every night. I think that will soon get sorted, George. I think it'll be interesting to see whether that Facebook page that you've all been blocked off will be handed over to Reform. I don't think he will. Because for a period they changed the name so it became the official Reform page. And then they changed it again to say Last Chance Saloon, and it became Last Chance Saloon in the lead up to him resigning. So I think he did that to remove it from the official Reform element, so he keeps the Facebook page. That's my guess. Maybe I'm doing him a disservice, but that's my guess. The testimonies. I think the nature of these inquiries, the testimonies have got to be in two ways. A lot of the survivors want to give testimony in public. Many of the survivors need as much support as possible, and putting them in front of public isn't the right thing to do. So I think the testimony for the survivors will be two ways, private and public. But I think for everyone else, the testimony is in public. And how they'll put pressure on the government, Moira? Well, they put pressure on the government by releasing the information and telling the truth. This is what's going on. By releasing the evidence via the rape gang inquiry and its platform, and the rest of us amplifying it, is how we put pressure on the government. If it wasn't for so many of us putting pressure on the government, we'd never have got this national inquiry. Now, I agree with you. I think, and there's something to feed back, I think what the rape gang inquiry need to do is put up a very clear schedule, timeline of events and activities. I don't think that's an unreasonable request for people who've contributed to setting up the inquiry. No, nothing about the inquiry from Labour yet. They closed Parliament down and got shamed by Robbie Moore, didn't they, on the last day? Who said, where are they? Where's the terms of reference? Where's the judge? Nothing. I know what they're trying to do, and I think I shared it with you in the middle of a transmission earlier in the week. I need to go away and start tidying myself up as well in the way I communicate this, because we come together and I share bits here, bits there, and you've got to follow all of it, and it's clear that while many of you do, an hour and a half, 2 hours, 2.5 hours is too long. So I'll probably go away and break some of this down into these masterclasses I keep talking about, and hopefully start them in September when we come back, so you can book, and it'll be a Zoom session. So you'll come in as well on a video feed. I'll present and talk and deliver a workshop, and in smaller groups. It does seem Maggie Oliver has gone quiet on her private prosecutions. I try not to criticise Gary. I was just so disappointed that the rape gang inquiry was really doing so well on the fundraising, and then it stalled. And I know why it stalled. It's because Maggie Oliver launched her fundraiser at the same time, or just at the back, once the Rupert's was going, and now they're doing nothing with it. They should have waited until it ended. That's my own thoughts. They should have waited until it ended. Please do like, share and donate. You're right, Louise, or buy me a copper. I think the Rupert Law's inquiry must go on as long as the official one goes on. I think it must go on. I mean, it can release information. There's nothing stopping it releasing information on a regular basis, but it's got to go on right up to the government releasing theirs, completing their work. And we know the government won't fast track it. And we know that they're going to try and cover it up. We know that, don't we? I'm in Bridlington. That's where the caravan is. I've got some older sisters just outside of Bridlington. So I'm in a caravan on a beach somewhere in Bridlington. So that's where I'm driving to tomorrow once I picked her up from school. So I'm back tomorrow lunchtime, and I'll run a workshop, and then the next time will be a meal with as many of you who are making it up here on Monday. And then my intention is to finish for the end of July. So we might do something on the Tuesday or the Wednesday in the lead up to the beginning of August, because I want to limit and time frame August and wrap it up. So that's what I want to do. So I might be back on Tuesday night if I can be. Okay, but I'll see you tomorrow. I'll see some of you tomorrow, and I'm happy to come to Suffolk for the lovely. And I've got friends in Norfolk. I do have friends in Norfolk. And in a lifetime ago, I when I was far younger and more nimble, I used to drive one of those Lotus Elises, and they were interesting. You had to be an acrobat to get in and out of them. Thank you so much. Have a very, very good evening. Good night.
Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them. On the 20th of November 2003, James O'Rourke McMahon was elected councillor for the Failsworth East Ward of Oldham. Deeply ambitious, he ruthlessly rose to power, and by 2011, he was already leader of the council. In 2015, exploiting a Labour Party loophole, he became MP for Oldham West and Royton. If only the people of the town knew then what they now know. Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them.